It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like we say this every week.
It has been a while. It has actually been a while.
So listeners are going to listen to this back to back, and they're just going to go, yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. Yeah, it's not every Friday, but we've meant to. We've had a good Christmas though, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you get up to?
Very jolly. Just family time.
Nice.
I was ill. I think everyone was ill after New Year's, weren't they?
Yeah.
All mingling all at the same time. Yeah, I had the most blocked nose I've ever had in my life.
Nice.
Like, I was mouth breathing. I actually snored for the first time in a long time. This is really irrelevant. But yeah, I was snoring.
Nice. I'm sure the listeners really want to hear
it. Yeah, I know. That's right.
Right, what are we talking about this week?
We're going to talk about Hyrox, I think.
I think we should.
Disclaimer, neither of us done one.
Yeah. Maybe we should, definitely say that.
I'm going to do one though.
Yeah? Which one are you looking at?
I've not thought. I mean, maybe Manchester. Because I like
keep it close to
Manchester.
home.
Keep it close to home, yeah.
I think the idea of them is great because obviously you got things like Ironman, which that's for the endurance athletes, but the fact that you can go anywhere and travel with it is like that's like a good selling point for them, and you can go away and collect different places. Same with Hyrox, I suppose. Like I know competitions for CrossFit you have here, there, and everywhere, but that's generally like in the UK to compete for, you know, getting to nationals and then going international. But Hyrox is more like seems more, an easier barrier for entry for everyone.
Yeah.
You could just go do it, and then if you do well, that's when you get invited.
Yeah. I think like from what I've heard, it's like you get all somatotypes going as well. So
somatotypes.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
It's a good word. I've not used that word in a long time actually. Different like body shapes.
Okay.
So you do get like you get complete novices. You get people who are like CrossFit elites that are like absolutely shredded. You get people who are like rugby players, or like you get any size or shape, because it's not like if you're a good runner, you're good at the running part. If you're a good weightlifter, you're good at the weightlifting part. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of that combination of, it is a hybrid challenge really, isn't it? So you know, if you're good, if you're strong, you'll be good. If you're quick at running, you'll be good.
I think from everything that I've seen about it so far, it has obviously there's a lot of running in it. So to compete at a good level, you've got to be good at running. You've got to be aerobically fit and be able to run on knackered legs.
Yeah.
I think that's a pivotal point.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been learning a lot more about it. By no means do I actually know a lot about it, because I don't think you really do until you actually do one.
Right.
Because it is very different to any kind of.
But you can look up what the exercises are.
Yeah. It's always the same list of exercises.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change from like week to week?
No.
Right, cool.
No. It's always the same stuff, which I think is quite good, because it means you can train at it and get better. So just like in, if you do half marathons or marathons, you can, track your time.
Yeah.
Because in a Hyrox, you can track the time that you complete it in,
right,
because it's always the same exercises. Those are consistent. So
yeah. And is it always in the same order?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't actually.
I love how we're talking about Hyrox.
Oh, I know, but I actually don't know much about it. I know more about the training for it, though. To be honest, like I know more about the training than the actual event, just because of the people I'm around. But
has anyone you know done it?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Cool.
And they're doing it. They're training for it now, and it's an interesting type of training, because it's all like heart rate based stuff.
Okay.
Because even if what I learned was that, like, because I said, I'm really, like, because I've been doing a lot more running recently, I'll be really good at the running, so that's something that I push. But they were like, you don't really want to do that, because if you push your running, or if you push a particular thing, your heart rate shoots up, and it's really hard to get it back down, because it's just continuous work.
Yeah.
And if you're going from something that you're good at that you want to push, like, your heart rate shoots up, but it takes a while for you to recover that heart rate, because you're constantly working.
Right.
So although you can be better at something, you're only as good as your worst exercise in a way.
Yeah.
Which I find quite an interesting concept.
I also quite like the fact that none of the sort of lifting elements are that technical.
Yeah.
Like you do, it's not like CrossFit competitions where you've got heavy snatch after heavy snatch, where some people can't even do a snatch.
Yeah. You don't have the shoulder range or anything. Everyone can actually do the exercises.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and like you've got some lunges in Hyrox, haven't you?
Yeah.
But for things like CrossFit, it's overhead lunges. Whereas, like you said, some people might not have that mobility. It's a lot more. The barrier for entry is a lot lower. Yeah,
and that's probably why it's boomed in population. And like exactly what I was saying, anyone can do it, and you can realistically beat any kind of fitness level as well.
Yeah.
Especially being an individual thing. Although you can do it in partners as well, which I didn't realise.
I didn't realise you could do it individually because I've only ever seen people.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think the more popular ones to do it as a pair, especially for like first timers, because people want to do it with their mate, because it's quite daunting, to be fair, going into one of those competitions on your own. So people do tend to do it for the first time as a pair.
I really wonder how I'd fare up, because like
we should do one, us two.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Shall we?
Yeah. Go on then.
You've just seen that live on air.
That's a
or heard it anyway. Yeah.
I think we should do that.
I think we should do it. Because like you said, you'll be good at the running and lifting and I'll just watch. No, like, because when I think I've browsed over the exercises and I was like, none of them seem like difficult on their own.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure they accumulate and, I've had, like I said, I've done CrossFit before and there's always, the workouts that you think are going to be fine are always the worst and vice versa. But yeah, I always feel quite comfortable lifting like a relatively heavy weight, but just continually. Like I know some people are way stronger than me for, weight. But in terms of like being able to continually just rep out and rep, I'm quite good at that stuff.
Right, yeah.
So like if you said, right, you got to do lunge the length of a rugby field with a weight on your back, I'm quite good at that. I can just do that.
Repetition kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'm kind of the opposite. I've always been a sprinter. So I've always been like maximal or like, I'm either like,
short and explosive.
But, again, so you might be quite good at this. And from a CrossFit background as well.
Did it for like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years is 2 years longer than me. And it is a similar concept in that it is, weightlifting for reps and...
Is it, you know more than me, but in terms of running, what is the distance, the total distance that you actually run?
The total distance is intervals of 1 kilometre with an exercise between.
So do you start on a run or finish on a run? Surely
That's a good question. I don't actually know.
Because that would account, wouldn't it? If you've got 10 exercises, but you start and finish on an exercise, then you do 2 less kilometres. So it'd either be like 10 or 8 kilometre run, wouldn't it? Thinking about it.
Something there or thereabouts. Probably should have searched this before.
Anywho.
But
that distance, 10 or 12 kilometres, really, or 8 kilometres, I think it's, anyway, poor maths. But that doesn't seem too daunting. Obviously, you're doing it on tired legs. So you obviously we're going to talk about the training side of things and you'll go into that in a minute, but it's not just running a 10K because we've all lifted weights and then gone for a run. It's completely different.
Yeah, it's a different sensation in completely. Because it depends what exercise you're on the back of. Like if you're on the back of a ski erg, your legs are going to be
up.
Well, it's going to be up, but it's also like an upper body exercise.
Yeah.
So you'll have slightly fresher legs than if you were to have just done your walking lunges, your weighted walking lunges. So it's going to be a different sensation, I'd imagine.
I quite like as well how they've got, so you've got individual, you've got doubles, you've got teams. So I think you could do it in like teams of 4.
Yeah.
And you've got mixed doubles as well.
Yeah.
So that's, again, it's quite accessible.
And females.
And females. Well, I said individuals. They are individuals. But go on, let's talk about the training side of things. What? So
again, I've not done one before, so I've not actually done the training, but it's very simulation based. So triathletes call it brick sessions, which is basically where they go from their swim to their bike or their bike to their run. So they'll actually do like a singular session would be both. So they're kind of doubling up, and it's very similar. So you're simulating your wall balls going into your run, or you're going from your wall balls into your sled push pull or whatever.
Right.
And it's all done at a heart rate, so you want to be below your threshold the whole time. Like I mentioned before, as soon
So
as you go above,
what happens if you don't track your heart rate? Should you be?
I mean, to be fair, you don't necessarily, you can do it off the feel, but by tracking your heart rate, it just allows you to kind of be a little bit more precise about your training.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to. So a lot of people do test their lactic threshold for that exact reason, so they know that they're like that their threshold heart rate, to stay below that.
Right.
Because, like I said, if you spike above that, it takes you a little while to recover because you're continuously working unless you stop, which is
and you're
obviously killing
accumulating
time.
lactic acid.
You're accumulating, yeah, exactly. So it's quite important.
On a note, let's do that next week. Let's talk about heart rate variability in training. I think that would be a good topic.
That would be a good topic.
But yeah, back to the training.
So it is kind of like that steady state thing and of continuously working. And obviously, if you're not as good on a certain exercise, you're not as efficient, that's something that's going to bring your heart rate up. So you've got to, again, just work on your technique, although it's not as technical as CrossFit per se, like you say, with the snatches and things like that.
Yeah.
There is an efficiency element. You want to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
I was coaching one of someone who I know that's doing it on their sled push because they had some inefficiencies, and this is where there's a bit of a crossover, right? Because obviously I specialize in speed and acceleration coaching, and doing that sled push is very similar to when you do a sled pull, like a sled sprint.
Yeah.
Because the movement from your lower body, from your hips down, is the same. So I was teaching them some like efficiencies there. And it's like little things, little details that people can change in their technique to become a bit more efficient and a bit more powerful doing, in their ski erg. For example, like I was chatting to someone with a ski erg, like twisting your wrists around, they felt like it was a little bit more powerful.
Yeah. I actually do as well.
Do you twist your wrists around like that?
Yeah. It's a bit like an arm wrestle.
Yeah.
So if you're there, that's the weakest point. But if you internally rotate, you're using your forearm muscles as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, you are stronger, which means you can generate more power through the machine, so you're more efficient that way. But if you haven't trained for it, and you suddenly then do that, you're toasting your forearms.
Yeah.
And then if you've got lots of other things to do, other exercises, then obviously they're going to be worse. But
that was exactly my thought process, because I'm quite strong in the wrist, but I no comment. I wouldn't do that because that would burn my forearms up. But I've got a strong grip in that neutral position. But if I was to twist, like, that would burn my forearms up too.
But then it's just training and making sure that if you're training on the ski erg, that you're using the technique that you would be.
And that's through the simulation. It's a lot of like just practicing and doing those kind of brick style sessions,
right?
At your target heart rate or just below your lactic threshold.
Interesting.
Because ultimately, the more you do it, the better you get. So the training is very much that. And then obviously you can do running based sessions, which would be interval sessions. Obviously you do, chuck a few like longer runs in there as well. Just for that bit of variation, but so you can or you can do like brick sessions, like where you are doing your intervals and
so for somebody who is looking to do one, doesn't really know, goes to the gym, likes to run, what would be the best sort of split, sort of gym sessions versus running sessions? Or I know you mentioned the block training, but would you integrate runs with the exercises? Because in most conventional gyms, I know the one that you used to train at, Athlete Factory, you could just run straight out the door and it'd be fine. Right. But there's a lot of gyms out there that you can't just go, right, I'm going to run out the door, run back in.
In that circumstance, a really good or a good alternative for that is to replace your running with any other cardio equipment. Obviously something that's a little bit more lower body based, so maybe like a bike or a row or whatever, but just to simulate that kind of cardiovascular style that would be for your run. And then obviously if that's your what you've got access to, then you'd obviously want to still get your running in, but doing that elsewhere. So going on a separate run.
Yeah.
And
how many run sessions would you look to be doing per week?
So this completely depends on where you're coming from. If you're a runner who wants to do Hyrox and you're a good runner,
yeah, that's very true.
Do you know what I mean? Or if you're a weightlifter, you know, and you've never ran before, then obviously you need to focus a lot more on your running. So it does completely depend where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Say you're a bit more neutral. Again, you can have a bit more neutral approach to it. But I think realistically, it's probably the best way is to work on your weakest thing.
I was just thinking that when I asked the question, I was looking for a number, you know, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. But when I was saying it, you're absolutely right. You know, if there is a list of exercises that you need to complete, you're only as good as your worst exercise.
Yeah.
And if you know that running is a massive component of it, so if your running is your weakest thing, then improving your efficiency in your running, improving your speed, you know, or being able to run quicker but keep your heart rate at the same level, you are going to be better, aren't you? At the end of the day, it's a race, and it's about getting the quickest time.
Yeah. And what, like, almost 50% of the time that you're doing the Hyrox for, you are running. So it makes sense to be good at running.
Yeah.
In my head.
Well, you know, we were talking about this before we jumped on camera and on microphone, but some of my friends that have done it, the ones that have got really good times, they're all
runners at heart.
Yeah, they're not. I wouldn't say they're runners at heart, but they lift. They like weightlifting, so they're strong naturally, but also they love running.
Yeah,
you know, they do marathons or they do half marathons, and they're quick.
Yeah.
You know, most of them are running sort of sub 23 minute 5Ks. You know, some of them can even do sub 20.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that do well because they can run at a quicker pace that I wouldn't be able to sustain. And actually, when you're running a kilometre and then later on you're running a kilometre, you can shave off, you know, some time here or there on the actual weightlifting exercises. But if you can shave off a couple of minutes every kilometre, you're laughing.
Definitely. Because it is, although they are kind of shorter runs, it's only a kilometre at a time, but because there's so many of them, it's that kind of every second counts kind of thing.
It's like, just thinking off the top of my head, if I was to run like my 5K pace for that, you know, I run a 5K at sort of 25 minutes on a good day. I normally sub that, but what's that? 5.5 minutes? No, it's 5 minutes per kilometre.
Yeah.
Some of the people that I know are doing, you know, sub 4 minute kilometres.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, if you're doing that, you know, that's 10 times one, you've saved yourself 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
And that's a long time when you're going through exercises. So.
Hell yeah. And that's just the running portion.
Yeah. So being aerobically fit is number one, and then being able to work at a capacity when your legs and your body's like jelly. So
if you're efficient in all of your exercises and your running, like that's the key. Even you know, you can be kind of average fitness. But if you're consistently efficient across the board with your exercises, you're going to be a decent Hyroxer.
Yeah.
Because it's all about kind of like keeping consistent and preserving your energy the whole way through.
Yeah.
And then if you can, you know, afford to pick up your pace at the end, then great. Just like running, really. Like, not necessarily a negative split. You don't have to do that, but just being consistent with your heart rate and just being consistently efficient with your exercises, so you're not wasting energy.
I agree.
On any particular exercise.
So I think a good take home message from that would be: take a look at the exercises, you know, trial it, see where your inefficiencies lie. You can always get better at running. I'm sure there's, you know, marathon runners, well, there are, that want to get better at running. So you can always improve on that. But in terms of the exercises, look at where your inefficiencies lie. And that's where you're going to make up the most time is improving on that. I think might as well dive into a bit of nutrition.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you're prepping, well, let's go with the training. But if you're training for Hyrox, it's pretty high intensity stuff. You're, you know, running a lot, which is...
Excuse me, sorry.
Nice, mate. You're whenever you run, you burn a lot more calories than if you were just weightlifting. So your energy expenditure is going to go up. So your energy intakes are going to have to compensate for that. And because it's quite an intense bout of exercise. You stop interrupting. You're taking a piss.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, because it's quite intense bouts of exercise, you will be burning a lot of glycogen, your carbohydrate storage. So you need to replace those carbohydrates in your body so that you're good to train next time. So it's really important that before training, about 2 to 3 hours before your training, you're getting lots of carbohydrates in your diet, relatively low glycemic index, so that you're replenishing those glycogen stores. But then after your training, it's really important to get protein into your diet, and it's really important to get some fast absorbing carbohydrates to spike your insulin, to get that sugar into your cells so it can be stored as glycogen. And it also allows the amino acids from the protein to go into your cells as well to help repair those muscles, because you're going to be doing a lot of muscle damage, and your muscles need to adapt to all the training that you're doing. At the end of the day, muscle growth and improved running efficiencies all happen because of muscle adaptations, and those muscle adaptations can only happen through adequate protein intakes. So you need to meet your protein needs, especially if you're weightlifting, even if you're running, but you also need lots of carbohydrates in your diet. Now I want to talk about pre-Hyrox fuel. You want a carb load like you're doing an endurance event. Marathon runners, half marathon runners, triathletes are all aware of sort of your carb loading. If you don't know what it is, it's essentially eating a shed load of carbohydrates way above your sort of daily needs, so that you're storing the maximum amount of carbohydrates or glycogen in your body, so that when it comes to game day, when it comes to the actual event, you have the most amount of glycogen stored. And the reason why we store that glycogen is because when we are exercising at a high intensity, that is the fuel that our body uses predominantly for energy. So you want that as high as possible so you don't burn out as quickly. And gels during, just like an endurance event, you're not really going to worry about getting amino acids in whilst you're doing it. It's just purely keeping your sugar levels topped up. So gels, sports drinks, a couple of hours up to the point of starting, and then during.
And then during your intra, this is me from what I remember, it's every half an hour after the first hour?
No, I would go every 20 minutes from the start.
From the start?
From the start.
Okay.
So every 20 minutes, you should be trying to get some carbohydrates in.
Even for like an hour and a half event, say that's roughly what time you're doing?
So there's some discrepancies without boring you, in the literature that say, like, obviously if you're doing anything longer than 90 minutes, you should be getting glucose and fructose, because that maximally absorbs the amount of sugar in your body. I mean, there won't be many studies on Hyrox itself because it's such a new event, but it's no different to like high intensity exercise. Yeah. So you're burning through glycogen at a very high rate. So why not just maximize what you're having?
Right.
And the max that you can really do is sort of 60 grams of sugar per hour. So I would most gels are like 20 grams of sugar. So 3 an hour, every 20 minutes. Yeah. That's just the simplest way to do it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you're not getting a gel in the first sort of 20 minutes, or after the first 20 minutes, I would just take them, because at the end of the day, you're going to be burning, and you might as well keep it topped up. Because I was just about to say, if you didn't have the last 20, it wouldn't make a difference, but that's probably when you need it the most. Yeah. Is that, I would also be taking caffeine throughout, as long as your body is used to caffeine. You don't want to be shitting yourself on a Hyrox event, or needing a poo whilst you're on it. But essentially, caffeine inhibits tiredness. You're going to feel tired on the event, So if you're keeping your caffeine intakes high, you're also stimulating your sympathetic nervous system, so you'll be able to lift more. You'll have reduced fatigue. You can also lift more reps and stuff like that. Creatine supplementation before as well. Make sure you're taking that during your training and up to events. That'll improve your anaerobic capacity, which is basically all of that event, and your aerobic capacity. So supplement wise, creatine, caffeine, that's all you really need, as long as you're recovering effectively. I could waffle about nutrition all day.
I think that's the basics, and considering we've not done a Hyrox before, I think that's quite good info.
Yeah, me too. Should we wrap it up?
What we'll have to do is we'll do it together,
and then we'll reevaluate
redo it, and then be like, what we said was completely wrong.
That's all theoretical. Yeah. We'll do.
We'll have to do it first.
I think so. Should we just do one in like Madrid or something, or Barcelona?
Barcelona.
Anyway,
shall we?
Hope you enjoyed Freaky Friday. Enjoy. Arrivederci.